Hi.
Oh, hello there.
I like how you are so still when you do this.
Well, that's because it's on my face, I think.
And mine is not.
It just feels like it's so loose.
I mean, I don't think I'm doing anything different than what you did.
You know?
I'm pretty sure you just put it on your face.
I don't. I like J-Lo.
Like, I have to fold it
Yeah.
many times over.
Me too.
Okay, I have to, like, fold it like here, 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 here.
That's weird.
Maybe I just have a small face.
Dude, what does that mean? Because literally, I think
if you were to, like, measure...
Like, you think your literal face is smaller than mine?
Exactly, sure. Maybe the size of my teeth. With
Doesn't
this,
sound right.
and then, like, maybe the skin surface of my face is less.
What?
Yeah, like, because then you also have, like, the curvature and forehead, surface is less. The volume of the surface. Would it be volume?
I don't know how much, like, science sense that makes, though.
What do you mean?
Like, that some people have more face than others. I don't know if that makes sense.
It must make sense that some people's faces would be smaller.
Yeah, but looking at the two of our faces, it doesn't look like yours is that much smaller.
But that's what I mean about curvature. Like, you have...
My nose, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's it.
It's the only thing I can think of. Like, the forehead of your face...
Yes, but if you just move
mask
the whole
fits.
thing up.
So maybe it's my hairline then. Maybe it's just a forehead thing. Because if I move the whole
Might
thing
just be
up, then it's full on.
I know,
on
but
my
I'm saying,
hair.
why don't you fold it up at the top rather than fold it here. I don't think
No,
that will
this is
necessarily
really
work. I
interesting.
don't know.
This is so creepy. But, okay, even if I do though, it's still it's kind of proving my point still. Okay, I'm gonna leave it be.
Okay.
I mean, it's on there.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
doing something.
No, of course it's doing something.
I know they look funny on me. Like, it looks quite elegant on you.
I don't know about that.
Well, it looks quite normal. As opposed to me where I look like the lion person.
What line? Listen.
You know how, like, there's a lion-faced guy? There's this, oh my god. Now I think it looks so much worse. Now I look crazy. Oh no! There's this disease that, makes your face swollen so that you look like a lion. I only know this because I watch a lot of Grey's Anatomy.
I see. And you researched the condition? Did
No,
you put
but
it
now I
down
want
around?
to. Yes, I did.
Didn't.
I did.
This smells nice, this one.
Yeah. What's in it?
I read it 2 seconds ago. What
It was
it?
thyme and...
Something. And a flower that sounded really made up. I don't think it was a real flower.
It's funny how people get, like, excited by, I don't know, the kitchen ingredients in their skincare. And they're like,
Kitchen ingredients.
yeah, like, they want to see, like, it's that natural thing, thinking that, like, natural is better. So if they're like, oh, it's honey, or, like, blueberries, or avocado. It's like anything you would want to eat or smell, they think will also be good in sheet mask form.
I think that's true.
Really? Like that it will be good in sheet mask form? I'm all for like these weird scientific compounds actually.
You're all about the chemicals?
Sure. I'm all for it. Otherwise, let's just smush some blueberries on our faces.
People do that.
I know, and I think it's stupid. It doesn't do anything.
I think that's actually the fact that it does something like is why they put them in sheet masks to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Because they work.
I don't think it's that they don't work. I think it's that, like, in combination with other things. I am not a scientist. I do not know.
Because what you saying to me is like not long ago, they're all just botanicals.
Oh,
You're like everything comes from plants.
yeah, like AHAs and BHAs are plants. They're acids that a lot of, I think it's BHAs, a lot of it is like found in bark in trees. Just fascinating.
BHAs have never crossed my path.
No, I think BHAs are for, you don't really have blackheads. BHAs are usually for blackheads.
I can't make any expression.
Don't laugh or smile.
My mom, when I was just speaking to her, like the 2 times I've called them with a face mask on, she's positive that my nephew's going to get freaked out. And I'm like, you're projecting. He's fine.
Was he okay?
Yeah. He's like, what in the face? And my mom's like, I think you're SCARY. I don't think he's scared though.
Yeah. It's just, I don't think he suddenly thinks you have no face.
I mean, it's a bit scary, but I don't like.
He's like, oh, you have something on your face.
I think it's also potentially weird if I don't laugh or smile.
Yeah.
But that's why I was like, I love you. And it's not scary. Anyway. So, this is happening. What did we read last night?
We read, it's gone, right? Oh, so we're in Moscow, and we kind of got to re-meet all the characters. Pierre is drinking a lot and socializing a lot.
Yes, he's just gone back to like, not only has he regressed, he's in a life that he never thought he would ever have for himself because he thought it was ridiculous and stupid and unnecessary. And now he's like, oh, I feel for these poor people.
Mm-hmm. Is that where he is? Well, I guess so.
What?
You're right. In like one paragraph, it was like, and he had contempt for all of them, and then he was like, and then he found himself, oh, it's like the society book, like more and more the people at the guys at the club, he
because he's all
identified
up in
with
the
them.
club all the time.
Yeah, seriously. I
You can
think
find him in
just
the club.
last night I got that's where the word club, like that's the first club. I know it's very basic. But a club is literally a club.
Oh my god. I can't, it's gonna fall. off my
No,
face.
don't laugh, just laugh.
You just thought that a club is a club?
That a club is a club.
Cool.
Yeah.
That happens to me all the time.
Yeah,
Then I'm like, oh, this is this.
yeah.
So, I can relate.
All it really takes is thinking through something. It's extraordinary the amount of times you just don't do that.
It's not just that. It's like putting 2 things together that like may not show up in the same place.
Yeah.
Like even if you think of something thoroughly, it's still like the other thing still has to occur to you. Oh, the sky is pretty
Oh,
through that
it's all
sliver
pink
of
and purple.
space. So we're like halfway through the book,
Yeah, we
as
are.
you are fond of saying.
I know. Every chapter I'm like, we're almost
Pretty.
done.
It's just
Better
letters.
dry.
Yeah, they're these like weird stuff comes up. Like they have these screensavers that are like books and shit. Yeah, like if I turn it off, some book's gonna turn up that. Okay, not right now, but some book will like just now it said Dean Koontz or something. Just random book titles.
Yes. Oh, that Demon Coots.
Koontz?
Is that it?
Koonz, I think. Koonz.
Him.
Koontz.
Him too. So Pierre, and then there's more parties.
The Rostovs.
Endless parties. Bolkonskis are in town without Andrew.
Natasha met Mary, and that didn't go well.
Yeah, they don't like each other. Oh, and Yeah, Mr. Bolkonsky continues to abuse his daughter.
The prince, the old prince. Yeah.
And is more and more interested in the idea of marrying Mademoiselle Bourienne. Just kind of despite everyone. That's what I get the feeling of.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's where we're at. And we're at
Chapter 8.
Thank you. Book 8, Chapter 8.
Book 8?
Mm-hmm.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Almost halfway done.
Okay. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 8. That evening, the Rostovs went to the opera, for which Maria Dmitrievna had taken a box.
Natasha did not want to go, but could not refuse Maria Dmitrievna's kind offer, which was intended expressly for her. When she came ready dressed into the ballroom to await her father, and looking in the large mirror there, she saw that she was pretty, very pretty. She felt even more sad, but it was a sweet, tender sadness.
Oh God, if you were here now, I would not behave as I did, but differently. I would not be silly and afraid of things. I would simply embrace him, cling to him, and make him look at me with those searching, inquiring eyes with which he has so often looked at me, and then I would make him laugh as he used to laugh. And his eyes, how I see those eyes, thought Natasha. And what do his father and sister matter to me? I love him alone. Him with that face and those eyes, with his smile, manly and yet childlike. No, I had better not think of him. Not think of him, but forget him. Quite forget him for the present. I can't bear this waiting, and I shall cry in a minute. And she turned away from the glass, making an effort not to cry. And how can Sonia love Nicholas so calmly and quietly and wait so long and patiently, thought she, looking at Sonia, who also came in, quite ready, with a fan in her hand. No, she's altogether different. I can't.
Natasha at that moment felt so softened and tender that it was not enough for her to love and know she was beloved. She wanted now, at once, to embrace the man she loved, to speak and hear from him words of love such as filled her heart. While she sat in the carriage beside her father, pensively watching the lights of the street lamps flickering on the frozen window, she felt still sadder and more in love, and forgot where she was going and with whom. Having fallen into the line of carriages, the Rostovs' carriage drove up to the theater, its wheels squeaking over the snow. Natasha and Sonia, holding up their dresses, jumped out quickly. The Count got out, helped by the footmen, and passing among men and women who were entering in the program cellars, they all three went along the corridor to the first row of boxes. Through the closed doors, the music was already audible.
Natasha, your hair, whispered Sonia.
An attendant deferentially and quickly slipped before the ladies and opened the door of their box. The music sounded louder, and through the door, rows of brightly lit boxes in which ladies sat with bare arms and shoulders, and noisy stalls brilliant with uniforms glittered before their eyes. A lady entering the next box shot a glance of feminine envy at Natasha. The curtain had not yet risen, and the overture was being played. Natasha, smoothing her gown, went in with Sonia and sat down, scanning the brilliant tiers of boxes opposite. A sensation she had not experienced for a long time, that of hundreds of eyes looking at her bare arms and neck, suddenly affected her both agreeably and disagreeably, and called up a whole crowd of memories, desires, and emotions associated with that feeling.
The two remarkably pretty girls, Natasha and Sonia, with Count Rostov, who had not been seen in Moscow for a long time, attracted general attention. Moreover, everybody knew vaguely of Natasha's engagement to Prince Andrew, and knew that the Rostovs had lived in the country ever since, and all looked with curiosity at the fiancé, who was making one of the best matches in Russia.
Natasha's looks, as everyone told her, had improved in the country, and that evening, thanks to her agitation, she was particularly pretty. She struck those who saw her by her fullness of life and beauty, combined with her indifference to everything about her. Her black eyes looked at the crowd without seeing anyone, and her delicate arm, bare to above the elbow, lay on the velvet edge of the box, while evidently unconsciously she opened and closed her hand in time to the music, crumpling her program. "Look, there's Alenina," said Sonia, "with her mother, isn't it?"
Dear me, Michael Kirillovich has grown still stouter, remarked the Count.
Look at our Anna Mikhailovna. What a headdress she has on.
The Karadins, Julie, and Boris with them. One can see at once that they're engaged.
Trubetskoy has proposed.
Oh yes, I heard it today, said Shinshin, coming into the Rostov's box.
Natasha looked in the direction in which her father's eyes were turned and saw Julie sitting beside her mother with a happy look on her face and a string of pearls round her thick red neck, which Natasha knew was covered with powder. Behind them, wearing a smile and leaning over with an ear to Julie's mouth, was Boris's handsome, smoothly brushed head. He looked at the Rostovs from under his brows and said something, smiling to his betrothed.
They're talking about us, about me and him, thought Natasha, and he no doubt is calming her jealousy of me. They needn't trouble themselves if only they knew how little I am concerned about any of them, she says.
Behind them,
She's gotten dark in the last 24 hours.
Very bleak. Oh, shit. So Russian of her.
Very.
I mean, they're moody folk. Okay. We could probably take our masks off at this point.
What do you mean?
Because I started the timer late.
You did?
Yeah.
How late?
Who's to say?
You are.
I know. It was
You
very
have to say.
irresponsible of me. I
No,
pressed pause
No, you have to
accidentally.
say.
Maybe we should take them off.
You think?
That's my prescription.
Okay. Off with them. Wow. I'm going to keep mine here.
Are you? Do you do that?
Now I do.
Oh.
some kid in some YouTube thing was like, and then I don't like to waste it, so then I have to put it here. And I was like, okay. That's what I'll be doing from now on.
Don't show your age with your neck.
Don't show your neck age.
It's weird when you suddenly become aware of things like that, and then you start looking at everyone's necks. You know what I can't, what makes me shiver is like, guys get these these deep wrinkles in the back of their necks.
Back of their necks?
Yes. I don't know what it is. It's deep
What
folds.
guys?
Just men. Old men.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they fall down.
Not the ones I've seen.
Okay.
Where?
I feel like I started noticing in movies. I can't think of.
Gross. I need to see examples.
You know what it's doing like that, like moody over the shoulder shot of something beautiful behind someone's head? I can't remember the last time I saw this, but I just remember it was like the back of some guy's head. Maybe this was just like Tiger King or something. And I was like, oh, his neck.
Okay, well, Tiger King is
Like
not...
it obviously depends on the lifestyle of the person too.
Imagine if you were like all men.
Just all.
Tiger King. Because of all the men in Tiger King. Who represent all men. How horrendous that whole thing was. I finished it finally.
Did you?
Horrible. Horrible.
I mean, Joe Exotic got what he wanted too.
Did he?
He's famous now.
Is that what he wanted?
Now everyone knows who he is.
Yeah. Yes. It's your turn to read. It's your turn.
Okay. Behind them sat Anna Mikhailovna, wearing a green headdress and with a happy look of resignation to the will of God on her face. Their box was pervaded by that atmosphere of an affianced couple, by that
I
which
didn't know that was a word until this book.
affianced.
Yeah.
I imagine it just doesn't come up as much.
See then? They're affianced.
Which
That's how I
Natasha
imagine it
knew.
would come up if it came up.
Yeah, that's the only context.
I mean, when do you now describe an...
If you were like, oh, we're affianced.
Yeah. I think I'm more likely to say the first one. see them there, as opposed to, oh, we.
Yes.
I'm not likely to be affianced, I don't think. Okay.
Their box was pervaded by that atmosphere of an affianced couple, which Natasha knew so well and liked so much. She turned away and suddenly remembered all that had been so humiliating in her morning's visit.
What right has he not to wish to receive me into his family? I'd better not think of it, not till he comes back, she told herself, and began looking at the faces, some strange and some familiar, in the stalls. In the front, in the very center, leaning back against the orchestra rail, stood Dolokhov. Oh!
Hello.
Huh?
Huh?
Dolokhov!
Yeah, where's he been at? In a Persian dress.
Why is he wearing a dress?
Maybe that's more of a, like, he's dressed.
Okay, but his curly hair is brushed up into a huge shock. He stood in full view of the audience, well aware that he was attracting everyone's attention, yet as much at ease as though he were in his own room. Around him thronged Moscow's most brilliant young men, whom he evidently dominated.
The Count, laughing, nudged the blushing Sonia and pointed to her former adorer. That's right. I remember he was another guy.
Oh, right. Oh, right. Do you recognize him? Said he. And where has he sprung from? He asked, turning to Shinshin. Didn't he vanish somewhere?
He did, replied Shinshin. He was in the Caucasus.
Yeah.
And ran away from there. They say he has been acting as a minister to some ruling prince in Persia, where he killed the Shah's brother. That's so like Dolokhov.
I know.
Now all the Moscow ladies are mad about him. It's Dolokhov the Persian that does it. You never hear a word, but Dolokhov is mentioned. They swear by him. They offer him to you as they would a dish of choice sterlet. Dolokhov and Anatoly Kuragin have turned all our ladies' heads.
A tall, beautiful woman with a mass of plaited hair and much exposed, plump, white shoulders and neck, around which she wore a double string of large pearls, entered the adjoining box, rustling her heavy silk dress, and took a long time settling into her place.
I like that. She's like, Natasha involuntarily gazed at that neck, those shoulders and pearls and coiffure, and admired the beauty of the shoulders and the pearls. While Natasha was fixing her gaze on her for the second time, the lady looked round, and, meeting the Count's eyes, nodded to him and smiled. She was the Countess Bezhukova, Pierre's wife, and the Count, who knew everyone in society, leaned over and spoke to her.
Have you been here long, Countess? He inquired. I'll call to kiss your hand. I'm here on business and have brought my girls with me, they say Semenova acts marvelously. Count Pierre never used to forget us. Is he here? What a all-over-the-place comment.
Yeah. I think Semenova is the wife of...
Seaman?
Yes.
First violin.
Yes. We all
Seaman
remember. We all remember. Yes, he meant to look in, answered Helena, and glanced attentively at Natasha. Count Rostov resumed his seat.
Handsome, isn't she? He whispered to Natasha.
Wonderful, answered Natasha. She's a woman one could easily fall in love with.
Just then, the last... How interesting. Nothing. We'll see, but I was like, oh, wouldn't it be interesting if her way into, like, looking at Pierre differently was through his, like, gorgeous wife that he probably doesn't... I mean, he obviously doesn't love, he fucking hates, but that's not the point.
Wouldn't that be so womanly of her?
That's how I know.
You know, women, they only want what they can't have.
Yeah. She can have it. We shall see. Just then, the last chords of the overture were heard, and the conductor tapped with his stick. Is that what that's called? A stick?
Yeah, that's the official term. Stick. It's pretty interesting that's the place where he chooses not to use French. Thanks.
What is it
As
called?
opposed to a baton.
Baton. Okay. Some latecomers took their seats in the stalls, and the curtain rose.
As soon as it rose, everyone in the boxes and stalls became silent, and all the men, old and young, in uniform and evening dress, and all the women with gems on their bare flesh turned
Why is that so gross to me?
We just have to, like, and their flesh their shoulders and their skin.
They're like plump. I don't know. I don't like the way it sounds.
He describes it like meat. Like
It's
if you were
gross,
describing like cutlets of chicken.
It's gross, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like, is it just me that I'm horrified by the way?
Bare flesh.
It's disgusting.
Turned their whole attention with eager curiosity to the stage. Natasha too began to look at it.
Oh, that's very.
Oh, good. Nice paragraph for saying that, like, yeah, and then the curtain rose and everyone watched the show.
She began to look at it. Chapter 9. Oh. The floor of the stage consisted of smooth boards. That sounds like a safety.
Now we get to find out about the state of the boards. Okay.
I mean, it sounds safe. You wouldn't want
That's true.
unsmooth boards.
But not too smooth, I hope.
Yes, not so smooth. It consisted of smooth boards. At the sides was some.
Yes.
That's not good English.
No, because was some painted cardboard. The was is related to the cardboard.
Yeah, but it's still far away.
No, I know it is.
At the sides was some. I don't like it. Was some painted cardboard representing trees, and at the back was a cloth stretched over boards. Okay, my fucking thing is doing weird things again. Over boards. In the center of the stage sat some girls in red bodices and white skirts. One very fat girl in a white silk dress sat apart on a low bench, to the back of which a piece of green cardboard was glued. They all sang something. Yes. Let's focus in minute detail on all the set pieces made of cardboard and what colors they were painted, and then say they all sang something.
No, you know what? He's trying to make a point, like, even the stage was dressed. But look how shoddy with this cardboard in comparison to the real theater is happening up in the boxes.
They all sang something. When they had finished their song, the girl in white went up to the prompter's box, and a man with tight silk trousers over his stout legs and holding a plume and a dagger went up to her and began singing, waving his arms about.
First the man in the tight trousers sang alone. Then she sang. Then they both paused while the orchestra played. And the man fingered the hand of the girl in white, obviously awaiting the beat to start singing with her. They sang together and everyone in the theater began clapping and shouting, while the man and woman on the stage who represented lovers began smiling, spreading out their arms and bowing.
Okay, they started bowing after the first song.
Yeah, that was it. That's the performance.
Okay. After her life in the country, and in her present serious mood, all this seemed grotesque and amazing to Natasha. She could not follow the opera, nor even listen. This seems very weird of her, right?
Yeah,
I don't think
should
the
be
opera
like,
would be her fault.
it's true. But she's grown moody.
She could not follow the opera, nor even listen to the music. She saw only the painted cardboard. Here we see it. And the queerly dressed men and women who moved, spoke, and sang so strangely in that brilliant light. She knew what it was all meant to represent, but it was so pretentiously false and unnatural that she first felt ashamed for the actors and then amused at them. She looked at the faces of the audience, seeking in them the same sense of ridicule and perplexity she herself experienced, but they all seemed attentive to what was happening on the stage and expressed delight which to Natasha seemed feigned. I suppose it has to be like this, she thought. She kept looking round in turn at the rows of pomaded heads in the stalls, and then at the semi-nude women in the boxes. I wouldn't call them semi-nude. From here to here.
Oh
From here to
my.
here.
That's why they're fixated.
God. Semi-nude, where is it?
And that's also why their necks. Because that's all you can see.
That's why their necks were.
Like, why there's so much description on their necks. Because I guess that's the only skin. You see this, and you see this.
But what about all the bare flesh?
There's not a lot of flesh.
It's all of it.
Ugh.
There's so much of it.
Do you think everyone's quite fat?
Yes. I think everyone's fat, and I think basically that I have this idea of what their diets are, so I'm just basically horrified by them. I think that they're all like large, meat-eating, like scary, like sodium white people. Like
Very little processed sugar, though.
That's true. Unlike me today. Oh, I ate processed sugar.
How many did you have?
I might have had 6.
Oh.
All throughout the day.
That feels like a lot, especially if you're not used to it.
I know. It wasn't at the same time.
Okay. That
It was
says something.
throughout the day. I needed a fix. I need my fix. Okay.
Where were we?
Semi-nude women.
Oh, that's right. How can I forget?
Semi-nude women in the boxes, especially at Helena in the next box, who appeared quite unclothed, sat with a quiet, tranquil smile, not taking her eyes off the stage. And feeling the bright light that flooded the whole place and the warm air heated by the crowd, Natasha little by little began to pass into a state of intoxication she had not experienced for a long while. She did not realize who and where she was, nor what was going on before her. As she looked and thought, the strangest fancies unexpectedly and disconnectedly passed through her mind. The idea occurred to her of jumping onto the edge of the box and singing the air the actress was singing. Then she wished to touch with her fan an old gentleman sitting not far from her, then to lean over to Helena and tickle her.
At a moment when all was quiet before the commencement of a song, a door leading to the stalls on the side nearest the Rostovs' box creaked, and the steps of a belated arrival were heard.
There's Kurgan. Sorry. I had to say.
Whispered Shinshin. Countess Bezhukova turned smiling to the newcomer, and Natasha, following the direction of that look, saw an exceptionally handsome adjutant approaching their box with a self-assured yet courteous bearing. This was Anatoly Kurgan, whom she had seen and noticed long ago at the ball in Petersburg. He was now in an adjutant's uniform with one epaulette and a shoulder knot. He moved with a restrained swagger, which would have been ridiculous had he not been so good-looking, and had his handsome face not worn such an expression of good-humored complacency and gaiety. Though the performance was proceeding, he walked deliberately down the carpeted gangway, his sword and spurs slightly jingling and his handsome, perfumed head held high. Having looked at Natasha, he approached his sister, laid his well-gloved hand on the edge of her box, nodded to her. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. Well, at least it was gloved. And leaning forward, asked a question with a motion toward Natasha.
Mes charmant, he said, he evidently referring to Natasha, who did not exactly hear his words but understood them from the movement of his lips, and plus that combined with her presumption about everything going on. Then he took his place in the front row of the stalls and sat down beside Dolokhov, nudging with his elbow in a friendly and offhand way that Dolokhov, whom others treated so fawningly. He winked at him gaily, smiled, and rested his foot against the orchestra screen.
These guys are such teenagers. How like the brother is to the sister, remarked the Count, and how handsome they both are.
Really?
Yeah.
Julie?
I think she's only handsome because she's rich.
Okay.
And I was like, how bewitching she is. I think she's quite fat, too. Not that, there's nothing wrong with being fat. But there was something scary about the description that her neck was so severely powdered that made me concerned.
Yeah, it's not... Yeah.
That it would sweat if it weren't doing that.
Well, I mean, they're wearing a lot of clothes, but it's
That's
Moscow.
It's cool.
I don't know. Shinshin, lowering his voice, began to tell the Count of some intrigue of Kurgan's in Moscow, and Natasha tried to overhear it just because he had said she was charmant.
Where are we?
The first act.
Thank you. The first act was over. In the stalls, everyone began moving about, going out and coming in.
Boris came to the Rostovs' box, received their congratulations very simply, and raising his eyebrows with an absent-minded smile, conveyed to Natasha and Sonia his fiancée's invitation to her wedding, and went away. Natasha was a gay, coquettish... What? Natasha with her.
Was it?
With a gay, coquettish smile, talked to him and congratulated on his approaching wedding that same Boris with whom she had formerly been in love. In the state of intoxication she was in, everything seemed simple and natural. I thought it was the opposite, that they seemed unnatural and...
I don't know. It sounds like she was like, and then...
Someone was like, ooh, you pretty, and she was like,
oh! Everyone's wonderful.
Life is so simple. This is so natural. Okay.
She's like she thrives under sunshine, you know? She's like a flower that like needs to be validated. And then she's like,
Really? I haven't perceived her that way this whole time.
I don't mean that in a bad way.
No, she seems to me like someone who like has like creates her own.
Creates her own light.
Yeah. At least that's, I mean, historically, that's who I thought anyway. I do think she responds well to...
Yeah.
I do think she responds well to positive affirmation. What a strange creature.
Did it say everything seemed simple and natural? The scantily clad Helena smiled. Scantily clad? She's not scantily clad.
She's not at all.
There was tons
of
Can we
rustling
stop
silk.
passing judgment on what these women are wearing? The scantily clad Helena smiled at everyone in the same way, and Natasha gave Boris a similar smile.
Helena's box was filled and surrounded from the stalls by the most distinguished and intellectual men who seemed to vie with one another in their wish to let everyone see that they knew her.
During the whole of that entr'acte, Kuragin stood with Dolokhov in front of the orchestra partition, looking at the Rostovs' box. Natasha knew he was talking about her, and this afforded her pleasure. She even turned so that he could see her profile and what she thought was its most becoming aspect. Before the beginning of the second act, Pierre appeared in the stall.
Imagine she's like...
I think yes.
That's probably her.
That is.
Yeah.
Like she's posing for a portrait. Pierre appeared. The Rostovs had not seen him since their arrival. His face looked sad, and he had grown still stouter since, like, stoutness. It's all these words that I'm like, what are you saying by that? Still stouter since Natasha last saw him. He passed up the front rows, not noticing anyone. Anatoly went up to him and began speaking to him, looking at and indicating the Rostovs' box. On seeing Natasha, Pierre grew animated, and hastily passing between the rows, came toward their box. When he got there, he leaned on his elbows and, smiling, talked to her for a long time. While conversing with Pierre, Natasha heard a man's voice in Countess Bezhukov's box, and something told her it was Kuragin. She turned, and their eyes met. Almost smiling, he gazed straight into her eyes with such an enraptured, caressing look. It seemed strange to be so near him, to look at him like that, to be so sure he admired her, and not to be acquainted with him.
In the second act, there was scenery representing tombstones. There was a round hole in the canvas to represent the moon. Shades were raised over the footlights, and from horns and contrabass came deep notes, while many people appeared from right and left wearing black cloaks and holding things like daggers in their hands. They began waving their arms. Then some other people ran in and began dragging away the maiden who had been in white and was now in light blue. They did not drag her away at once, but sang with her for a long time, and then at last dragged her off. And behind the scenes, something metallic was struck 3 times, and everyone knelt down and sang a prayer. All these things were repeatedly interrupted by the enthusiastic shouts of the audience.
During this act, every time Natasha looked toward the stall, she saw Anatoly Kuragin with an arm thrown across the back of his chair, staring at her.
Jesus.
That's a little aggressive. She was pleased to see that he was captivated by her, and it did not occur to her that there was anything wrong in it. How could that not occur to her? Anyway.
Because they're allowed to do whatever they want.
Okay.
When the second act was over, Countess Bezhukova rose, turned to the Rostov's box, her whole bosom completely exposed, beckoned the old count with a gloved finger, and paying no attention to those who had entered her box, began talking to him with an amiable smile.
"Do make me acquainted with your charming daughters," said she. "The whole town is singing their praises, and I don't even know them."
Natasha rose and curtsied to the splendid countess. She was so pleased by praise from this brilliant beauty that she blushed with pleasure.
"I want to become a Muscovite too now," said Helena. "How is it you're not ashamed to bury such pearls in the country?"
Countess Bezhukova quite deserved her reputation of being a fascinating woman. "Oh, she did she? I thought she was stupid." She could say what she did not think, especially what was flattering, quite simply and naturally. Oh.
Especially, yeah, exactly. I was like, wait for it. "Dear Count, you must let me look after your daughters. They're not staying here long this time, nor are you. I will try to amuse them. I have already heard much of you in Petersburg, and wanted to get to know you," said she to Natasha with her stereotyped and lovely smile. "I had heard about you from my page, Drubetskoy. Have you heard he is getting married? And also from my husband's friend, Volkonsky, Prince Andrew Volkonsky," she went on with special emphasis, implying that she knew of his relation to Natasha. To get better acquainted, she asked that one of the young ladies should come into her box for the rest of the performance, and Natasha moved over to it.
The scene of the third act represented a palace in which many candles were burning and pictures of knights with short beards hung on the walls. In the middle stood what were probably a king and queen. The king waved his right arm and, evidently nervous, sang something badly and sat down on a crimson throne. The maiden, who had been first in white and then in light blue, now wore only a smock and stood beside the throne with her hair down. She sang something mournfully, addressing the queen, but the king waved his arm severely, and men and women with bare legs came in from both sides and began dancing all together. Then the violins played very shrilly and merrily, and one of the women with thick bare legs and thin arms, separating from the others, went behind the wings, adjusted her bodice, returned to the middle of the stage, and began jumping and striking one foot rapidly against the other. In the stalls, everyone clapped and shouted, "Bravo!" Then one of the men went into a corner of the stage. The cymbals and horns in the orchestra struck up more loudly, and this man with bare legs jumped very high and waved his feet about very rapidly. He was Dupont, who received 60,000 rubles a year for this art. Everybody in the stalls, boxes, and galleries began clapping and shouting with all their might, and the man stopped and began smiling and bowing to all sides. Then other men and women danced with bare legs. What is this? Bare this, bare that.
So much skin being exposed.
Then other men and women danced with bare legs. Then the king again shouted to the sound of music, and they all began singing. But suddenly a storm came on. Chromatic scales and diminished sevenths were heard in the orchestra. Everyone ran off, again dragging one of their number away, and the curtain dropped. Once more there was a terrible noise and clatter among the audience, and with rapturous faces everyone began shouting, "Dupont! Dupont! Dupont!"
That's how he shouted it.
Yeah. Oh, that's exactly it. Natasha no longer thought this strange. She looked about with pleasure, smiling joyfully.
"Isn't Dupont delightful?" Helena asked her.
"Oh, yes," replied Natasha.
Maybe all the skin is trying to say that everyone was quite aroused during this performance. That's what's happening with Natasha.
Is that?
I don't know.
Happening?
Are they skin starved? Are they flesh? And so everyone's feeling quite flirtatious.
Are they feeling quite flirtatious? They seem a normal amount of flirtatious to me.
That they're just always this level of...
Who? Anatoly?
I mean, the whole chapter is I don't know. Oh, those boys. They set girls' hearts aflutter.
Maybe.
And then there's a lot of skin going on. Maybe saying maybe that's what's going on with Natasha, where suddenly she feels intoxicated.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That's a very fair, I don't know about fair, but that's a very cohesive, coherent reading that you've just done.
Thank you. Okay.
Let's just say that was his intention.
Sure.
Chapter 10.
Okay. During the entr'acte, a whiff of cold air came into Helena's box. The door opened, and Anatoly entered, stooping and trying not to brush against anyone.
Let me introduce my brother to you, said Helena.
Oh, I didn't. Oh, that's right. I didn't make that association. So they're the handsome brother and sister.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not Julie.
Right.
Corrigan. Carrick. I can't fucking with these two last names.
Yeah, that's.
Anatoly. I mean, we're about to find out. Corrigan.
So it is him?
Julie Carrigan.
Yeah, and Kurgan is Anatoly?
Yeah.
But that is Vasily's
Yeah.
son. Okay.
That I knew, but I didn't really realize that Helena
forgot
was Vasily's daughter.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Like, where did she even come from? Oh, Vasily was the one who was like, congratulations!
Yeah, congratulations, you're engaged!
He was?
Yeah. And Pierre was like,
I sort of forgot about that.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, that was him.
Yeah.
Well, alrighty then.
Natasha, yeah, that makes more sense.
You mean that Julie's not pretty?
No, it just makes sense. They were very much like the center of attention, those two, during that past chapter.
Yeah.
Natasha turned her pretty little head toward the elegant young officer and smiled at him over her bare shoulder. Mm-hmm. Anatoly, who was as handsome at close quarters as at a distance, sat down beside her and told her he had long wished to have this happiness, ever since the Narishkin's ball, in fact, at which he had the well-remembered pleasure of seeing her. Kurgan was much more sensible and simple with women than among men. He talked boldly and naturally, and Natasha was strangely and agreeably struck by the fact that there was nothing formidable in this man about whom there was so much talk, but on the contrary, his smile was almost naive, cheerful, and good-natured.
Kurgan asked her opinion of the performance and told her how at a previous performance Semenova had fallen down on the stage.
And do you know, Countess, he said, suddenly addressing her as an old familiar acquaintance, we are getting up a costume tournament. You ought to take part in it. It will be great fun. We shall all meet at the Kerrigans.
Well, is that your house or someone else's house? Anatoly.
At the Kerrigans.
Okay.
Kurgan Kerrigan. Please come. No, really, eh? He said.
He's gonna.
Yeah, don't you know?
It's very funny to me that your A's are almost worse than my A's. You have the least Canadian moments when it comes to A's.
Yeah, I think I over worry about it, so
You're
then
like,
I can't do
really?
it.
Eh? You overthink it, you think?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. While saying this, he never removed his smiling eyes from her face, her neck, and her bare arms. Yikes. Natasha knew for certain that he was enraptured by her. So knew we all. This pleased her.
Mm-hmm.
Yet his presence made her feel constrained and oppressed.
Why?
When she was not looking at him, she felt that he was looking at her shoulders, and she involuntarily caught his eye so that he should look into hers rather than this.
Yes.
But looking into his eyes, she was frightened, realizing that there was not that barrier of modesty she had always felt between herself and other men. She did not know how it was that within 5 minutes she had come to feel herself terribly near to this man. When she turned away, she feared he might seize her from behind by her bare arm and kiss her on the neck. Whew. They spoke of most ordinary things, yet she felt they were closer to one another than she had ever been to any man. Natasha kept turning to Helena and to her father, as if asking what it all meant, but Helena was engaged in conversation with the general, and did not answer her look. And her father's eyes said nothing but what they always said. Having a good time? Well, I'm glad of it!
Who's I fucking her?
Who?
Anatoly.
Yeah.
Have some decency.
If this becomes a thing, I'm going to be pissed, because he is not worthy.
Yeah.
He's stupid.
He's not. He's a pretty boy.
He's a dumbass. Wasn't he like...
Yeah. He was the one who made out.
Yes.
I never know in these books, like,
yes,
what people are actually doing.
You mentioned.
I mean, they leave it very vague up to your imagination.
You're like, what does embraced mean?
They're just hugging.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yeah. During one of these moments of awkward silence when Anatolia's prominent eyes were gazing calmly and fixedly at her, like, Natasha, to break the silence, asked him how he liked Moscow. She asked the question and blushed. She felt all the time that by talking to him, she was doing something improper. Anatoly smiled as though to encourage her.
At first, I did not like it much because what makes a town pleasant, ce sont les jolies femmes, isn't that so? But now, I like it very much indeed, he said, looking at her significantly. You come to the costume tournament, Countess. Do come! And putting out his hand to her bouquet.
What's a bouquet?
Oh, yeah. And dropping his voice, he added, you will be the prettiest there. Do come, dear Countess, and give me this flower as a pledge.
Maybe like she has a
shit ton of flowers.
She's holding a business.
The entire book they've had, they've been holding flowers of every woman. A bouquet is a bouquet.
Like it's a corsage?
I don't know.
Maybe it's that. It says that. Natasha did not understand what he was saying any more than he did himself, but she felt that his incomprehensible words had an improper intention. She did not know what to say and turned away as if she had not heard his remark. But as soon as she had turned away, she felt that he was there, behind, so close behind her.
How is he now? Confused? Angry? Was I to put it right? She asked herself, and she could not refrain from turning around. She looked straight into his eyes, and his nearness, self-assurance, and the good-natured tenderness of his smile vanquished her. She smiled, just as he was doing, gazing straight into his eyes, and again she felt with horror that no barrier lay between him and her.
The curtain rose again, and Anatoly left the box, serene and gay. Natasha went back to her father in the other box, now quite submissive to the world she found herself in. All that was going on before her now seemed quite natural, but on the other hand, all her previous thoughts of her betrothed, of Princess Mary, or of life in the country did not once recur to her mind, and were as if belonging to a remote past.
In the fourth act, there was some sort of devil who sang, waving his arm about, till the boards were withdrawn from under him, and he disappeared down below. That was the only part of the fourth act that Natasha saw. She felt agitated and tormented, and the cause of this was Kuragin, whom she could not help watching. As they were leaving the theatre, Anatoly came up to them, called their carriage, and helped them in. As he was putting Natasha in, he pressed her arm above the elbow. Pressed.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I like that. Agitated and flushed, she turned round. He was looking at her with glittering eyes, smiling tenderly.
Only after she reached home was Natasha able clearly to think over what had happened to her, and suddenly remembering Prince Andrew, she was horrified. At tea to which all had sat down after the opera, she gave a loud exclamation, flushed, and ran out of the room.
Oh, God, I am lost, she said to herself. How could I let him? She sat for a long time hiding her flushed face in her hands, trying to realize what had happened to her, but was unable either to understand what had happened or what she felt. Everything seemed dark, obscure, and terrible. There in that enormous illuminated theatre where the bare-legged Dupont, in a tinsel decorated jacket, jumped about to the music on wet boards, and young girls and old men and the nearly naked Helena with her proud, calm smile rapturously cried bravo. There, in the presence of that Helena, it had all seemed clear and simple, but now, alone by herself, it was incomprehensible. What is it? What was that terror I felt of him? What is this gnawing of conscience I am feeling now, she thought. Is she really wondering?
Yeah, it sounds like.
Okay.
Only to the old countess at night in bed could Natasha have told all she was feeling. She knew that Sonia, with her severe and simple views, would either not understand it at all or would be horrified at such a confession. So Natasha tried to solve what was torturing her by herself.
Am I spoiled for Andrew's love, or not? She asked herself, and with soothing irony replied, what a fool I am to ask that. What did happen to me? Nothing. I have done nothing. I didn't lead him on at all. Nobody will know, and I shall never see him again, she told herself. So it is plain that nothing has happened, and there is nothing to repent of. Sounds like my inner monologue.
Really?
Yes.
You're like, I don't have to be guilty. I
Yeah.
did nothing.
Nothing happened. Yeah. So it is plain that nothing has happened and there is nothing to repent of, and Andrew can love me still. But why still? God, why isn't he here? Natasha quieted herself for a moment, but again some instinct told her that though all this was true and though nothing had happened yet, the former purity of her love for Prince Andrew had perished. And again, in imagination, she went over her whole conversation with Kurgan and again saw the face, gestures, and tender smile of that bold, handsome man when he pressed her arm.
That's so tragic.
I know.
And he doesn't even have to actually have done anything for her to be like, I'm impure for my betrothed.
Yeah, I think it's partly that, but it's also partly just having this, it's like something being idealized. Like if you idealize your love to the betrothed, then any like spot of rain can like screw up the whole thing because it symbolically has like, you know what I mean? It's just, you're living in a
No, I get it.
separate.
But how, like, because there's two parts. There's like that happened, but then there's also like feeling responsible for that happening.
But what does she feel responsible for is the question. Because I guess the thing is that if it was just his straight up impudence, I don't think she would internalize it. Her.
Yeah.
Maybe everybody else would, but I don't think she would. So I think the thing that she's recoiling from is not him and his brazen anythingness. It's from her response to it.
Like, that she liked it.
Yeah, that there was something that like,
She was flattered by it and drawn to it.
yeah, that she like stuck around for it. Which, yes, is very much putting responsibility on her that, yes. But I think maybe both things are true. But she is expecting to
She's
not
also
have a
16.
human reaction to literally anything happening. And that is like, to hinge your assessment of the purity of your love on something like that is like, not going to be good.
I also don't know. I'm assuming there isn't much conversation around lust in this society.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, obviously they're very like sexually expressed. Yeah, I just don't know if they ever discuss that, if that's a normal state of affairs. And so, like, the idealism of love, and
Well, women certainly
And
aren't
then
supposed to.
then having the hots for some guy.
Women certainly aren't supposed to. So from that lens, like, of course she's like, oh, my love is sullied. Because I wouldn't have these feelings if I, like, had pure love for Andrew. Okay. 11. This seems like it's going to be a thing.
You think so? Do you
I
think she's
don't
going to go to the party?
I don't know. No, I don't think she'll go.
No.
But I don't think that's the end of the...
No. She'll see him again.
Yeah.
In some context. I like your...
No.
blanket shop.
My left knee is exposed.
Oh no! Cover it. Cover your decency.
I need to cover my bare flesh. That's what I'm doing. I'm putting my bare flesh away. Woo!
I'd be so good in this society, actually.
You would? What?
You would be very good at covering up. And being modest. Isn't she good?
You think?
Yeah. Princess Mary all the way. Oh. Chapter 11. Anatoly Kuragin was staying in Moscow because his father had sent him away from Petersburg, where he had been spending 20,000 rubles a year in cash, besides running up debts for as much more, which his creditors demanded from his father. How surprising.
getting distracted by him. His father announced to him that he would now pay half his debts for the last time, but only on condition that he went to Moscow as adjutant to the commander-in-chief, a post his father had procured for him, and would at last try to make a good match there. He indicated to him Princess Mary and Julia Karolina.
Anatoly consented and went to Moscow, where he put up at Pierre's house. Pierre received him unwillingly at first, but got used to him after a while, and sometimes even accompanied him on his carousals and gave him money under the guise of loans.
As Shinshin had remarked, from the time of his arrival, Anatoly had turned the heads of the Moscow ladies, especially by the fact that he slighted them and plainly preferred the gypsy girls and French actresses.
Mm-hmm.
With the chief of whom? Chief of the French actresses?
With the chief of whom? Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Like, of those girls.
Doesn't sound like they're the same girls, but it sounds like two groups. With the chief of whom, Mademoiselle Georges, he was said to be on intimate relations. He had never missed a carousal at Danilov's or other Moscow revelers, drank whole nights through, outvying everyone else, and was at all the balls and parties of the best society. There was talk of his intrigues with some of the ladies, and he flirted with a few of them at the balls. But he did not run after the unmarried girls, especially the rich heiresses who were most of them plain. There was a special reason for this, as he had got married 2 years before. A fact known only to his most intimate friends. At that time, while with his regiment in Poland, a Polish landowner of small means had forced him to marry his daughter. Anatoly had very soon abandoned his wife and, for a payment which he agreed to send to his father-in-law, had arranged to be free to pass himself off as a bachelor.
Anatoly was always content with his position, with himself and with others. Why shouldn't he? He was instinctively and thoroughly convinced that it was impossible for him to live otherwise than as he did, and that he had never in his life done anything base. He was incapable of considering how his actions might affect others, or what the consequences of this or that action of his might be. He was convinced that as a duck is so made that it must live in water, so God had made him such that he must spend 30,000 rubles a year and always occupy a prominent position in society. He believed this so firmly that others, looking at him, were persuaded of it too. It did not refuse him either a leading place in society or money, which he borrowed from anyone and everyone, and evidently would not repay.
He was not a gambler. At any rate, he did not care about winning. He was not vain. He did not mind what people thought of him. Still less could he be accused of ambition. More than once he had vexed his father by spoiling his own career, and he laughed at distinctions of all kinds. He was not mean and did not refuse anyone who asked of him. All he cared about was gaiety and women, and as according to his ideas, there was nothing dishonorable in these tastes, and he was incapable of considering what the gratification of his tastes entailed for others. He honestly considered himself irreproachable, sincerely despised rogues and bad people, and with a tranquil conscience carried his head high.
Rakes,
Amazing.
those male Magdalens have a secret feeling of innocence, similar to that which female Magdalens have.
Is that right?
Yes, it is. Tolstoy says so. It's so. Based on the same hope of forgiveness. All will be forgiven her, for she loved much, and all will be forgiven him, for he enjoyed much.
Dolokhov, who had reappeared that year in Moscow after his exile and his Persian adventures, and was leading a life of luxury, gambling, and dissipation, associated with his old Petersburg comrade Kuragin and made use of him for his own ends.
Anatoly was sincerely fond of Dolokhov for his cleverness and audacity. Dolokhov, who needed Anatoly Kuragin's name, position, and connections as a bait to draw rich young men into his gambling set, made use of him and amused himself at his expense without letting the other feel it. Apart from the advantage he derived from Anatoly, the very process of dominating another's will was in itself a pleasure, a habit, and a necessity to Dolokhov.
Natasha had made a strong impression on Kuragin. At supper after the opera, he described to, "What time is it?" After the opera, they're like suffering.
That's just it. I always feel like they go out very late. These people are living it up. Like, they leave the house at 10 past. Remember the
10 past
ball?
what?
Remember the ball? It was like at 10 o'clock.
It was?
Remember you were like, that's late.
It was? I'm such an old lady.
Maybe it wasn't the ball. There was something where you were like, whoa, that's late. And I thought so too. And then after these evenings, then they have supper. So it's like 1 a.m. or something. And then they stay up drinking later.
Well, I thought the same thing when the Natashas got back from the thing and they were drinking tea.
Yeah, right. Then
It was
they
like
have tea.
with caffeine. Okay. Supper. At supper after the opera, he described to Dolokhov with the air of a connoisseur the attraction of her arms, shoulders, feet, and hair, and expressed his intention of making love to her. Wow! That was very explicit.
Okay.
Ah!
I would like to make love to her.
That reminds me
I'm
of
sure
something.
that's how we said it.
Anatoly had no notion and was incapable of considering what might come of such love-making, and as he never had any notion of the outcome of any of his actions. Cool.
She's first rate, my dear fellow, but not for us, replied Dolokhov.
I will tell my sister to ask her to dinner, said Anatoly. Hey?
Nice. You'd better wait till she's married.
You know, I adore little girls. They lose their heads at once, pursued Anatoly.
You've been caught once already by a little girl, said Dolokhov, who knew of Kurgan's marriage. Take care.
Well, that can't happen twice. Eh? Said Anatoly with a good-humored laugh.
Oh, that got explicit.
Wow. You asked for it.
I did.
Did you?
Maybe.
You were like, everyone's so repressed.
Yeah. No, they're not.
No, they're not.
So is everyone just having a bunch of sex the same as now?
I mean, to a certain extent, definitely. I don't think it's the same as now. Because lots of people, I imagine, don't do it because of what it means for their lives. Like, I don't think unmarried women who have any societal pressure to like marry someone that's like a good, I don't know. I don't think those people can fucking afford. I don't think they can afford to be messing around.
It adds like another layer historically to the fear of like of being a slut or sleeping around.
What do you mean?
Because it's like placing you not only in a class of women but also like in a class of women. It's saying something about your status. Potentially.
But that is the whole thing of being a slut. It's always been.
Yeah. I'm saying like it doesn't just become. I guess yeah, you're right. That has been there. It doesn't just become about like your morals or your scruples. It literally becomes of like
That's why whatever Polish landowner was like, "Oh no, you're marrying her."
Right.
Yeah, because it's a life and death thing.
Yeah, because I think it's life and death for. I think it's just as risky for everyone lower down.
Yeah. It's risky for everyone. But what I'm saying is at least these people, like he might be doing whatever he wants with French actresses. And basically that means like people who
Actresses.
it doesn't matter to him essentially what happens to them, which it kind of says that.
It doesn't matter to him what happens to them.
Yeah. It says that like 3 times in this cross chapter.
Yeah.
That he doesn't give a shit.
I don't think he gives a shit about anyone.
Yeah. But I think it's easier to not give a shit about certain people than it is others.
I would think the Rostovs are like high enough up that it's a little bit audacious what he's proposing.
Definitely. Definitely it is. Definitely it is. They're in the same society.
Exactly. That's something too, like being in the same circle.
That's the whole thing. They're not in the same circles with like actresses. Or gypsy women or whatever.
But he's just enjoying life, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't forgive him. He just loves women.
Okay.
It's like loving like a really good meal.
I need to eat a gummy. I can't be here for this. Okay.
Chapter 12?
Chapter 12! The day after the opera, the Rostovs went nowhere and nobody came to see them. Maria Dmitrievna talked to the Count about something which she concealed from Natasha. Natasha guessed they were talking about the old prince and planning something, and this disquieted and offended her. She was expecting Prince Andrew any moment, and twice that day sent a manservant to the Vozdvizenka to ascertain whether he had come. He had not arrived. She suffered more now than during her first days in Moscow. To her impatience and pining for him were now added the unpleasant recollection of her interview with Princess Mary and the old prince, and a fear and anxiety of which she did not understand the cause. She continually fancied that either he would never come or that something would happen to her before he came. She could no longer think of him by herself calmly and continuously as she had done before. As soon as she began to think of him, the recollection of the old prince, of Princess Mary, of the theatre, and of Kurgan mingled with her thoughts. The question again presented itself whether she was not guilty, whether she had not already broken faith with Prince Andrew, and again she found herself recalling to the minutest detail every word, every gesture, and every shade in the play of expression on the face of the man who had been able to arouse in her such an incomprehensible and terrifying feeling. To the family, Natasha seemed livelier than usual, but she was far less tranquil and happy than before.
On Sunday morning, Maria Dmitrievna invited her visitors to Mass at her parish church, the Church of the Assumption built over the graves of victims of the plague. Nice church.
What? The Church of the Assumption.
The Assumption. I don't know what that is.
It's a little presumptuous to build your church over the graves of victims of the plague. Maybe it should be called the Church of the Presumption.
Well done.
I don't like those fashionable churches, she said, evidently priding herself on her independence of thought. God is the same everywhere. We have an excellent priest who conducts the service decently and with dignity, and the deacon is the same. What holiness is there in giving concerts in the choir? I don't like it. It's just self-indulgence.
Maria Dmitrievna liked Sundays and knew how to keep them. Her whole house was scrubbed and cleaned on Saturdays. Neither she nor the servants worked, and they all wore holiday dress and went to church. At her table, there were extra dishes at dinner, and the servants had vodka and roast goose or suckling pig. But in nothing in the house was the holiday so noticeable as in Maria Dmitrievna's broad, stern face, which on that day wore an invariable look of solemn festivity. What? It's a hard look to pull off.
After Mass, it's very light and bold.
Very, very.
After Mass, when they had finished their coffee in the dining room, where the loose covers had been removed from the furniture, a servant announced that the carriage was ready, and Maria Dmitrievna rose with a stern air. She wore her holiday shawl, in which she paid calls, and announced that she was going to see Prince Nicholas Bolkonsky to have an explanation with him about Natasha. What the fuck, lady?
After she had gone, a dressmaker from Madame Superfoguet waited on the Rostovs.
What a great name, by the way.
Superfoguet.
Madame Super.
And Natasha, very glad of this diversion, having shut herself into a room adjoining the drawing room, occupied herself trying on the new dresses. Just as she had put on a bodice without sleeves and only tacked together, and was turning her head to see in the glass how the back fitted, She heard in the drawing room the animated sounds of her father's voice and another's, a woman's, that made her flush. It was Helena. Natasha had not time to take off the bodice before the door opened and Countess Bezhikova, dressed in a purple velvet gown with a high collar, came into the room beaming with good-humored, amiable smiles.
"Oh, my enchantress!" she cried to the blushing Natasha. "Charming! No, this is really beyond anything, my dear Count," said she to Count Rostov, who had followed her in. "How can you live in Moscow and go nowhere? No, I won't let you off. Mademoiselle Georges will recite, oh no, at my house tonight, and there'll be some people, and if you don't bring your lovely girls who are prettier than Mademoiselle Georges, I won't know you. My husband is away in Tibet, or I would send him to fetch you. You must come. You positively must. Between 8 and 9.
She nodded to the dressmaker, whom she knew, and who had curtsied respectfully to her, and seated herself in an armchair beside the looking-glass, draping the folds of her velvet dress picturesquely. She did not cease chattering good-naturedly and gaily, continually praising Natasha's beauty. She looked at Natasha's dresses and praised them, as well as a new dress of her own made of metallic gauze, which she had received from Paris, and advised Natasha to have one like it.
"But anything suits you, my charmer," she remarked.
The smile of pleasure never left Natasha's face. She felt happy and as if she were blossoming under the praise of this dear Countess Bezhikova.
There you go. That's basically exactly what you said.
Yeah. Who had formerly seemed to her so unapproachable and important and was now so kind to her. Natasha brightened up and felt almost in love with this woman, who was so beautiful and so kind. Helena, for her part, was sincerely delighted with Natasha and wished to give her a good time. Anatoly had asked her to bring him and Natasha together.
Oi!
And she was calling on the Rostovs for that purpose.
What?
The idea of throwing her brother and Natasha together amused her.
Though at one time, in Petersburg, she had been annoyed with Natasha for drawing Boris away, she did not think of that now, and in her own way heartily wished Natasha well. As she was leaving the Rostov, she called her protégé aside.
My brother dined with me yesterday. We nearly died of laughter. He ate nothing and kept sighing for you, my charmer.
Oh my God!
He was quite madly in love with you, my dear.
Natasha blushed scarlet when she heard this.
How she blushes, my pretty, said Helena. You must certainly come. If you love somebody, my charmer, that is not a reason to shut yourself up. Even if you are engaged, I am sure your fiancé would wish you to go into society rather than be bored to death.
So she knows I'm engaged, and she and her husband Pierre, that good Pierre, have talked and laughed about this. So it's all right. And again, under Helena's influence, what had seemed terrible now seemed simple and natural. And she is such a grand dame, so kind and evidently likes me so much. And why not enjoy myself, thought Natasha, gazing at Helena with wide-open, wondering eyes.
Maria Dmitrievna came back to dinner, taciturn and serious, having evidently suffered a defeat at the old princess. She was still too agitated by the encounter to be able to talk of the affair calmly. In answer to the Count's inquiry, she replied that things were all right and that she would tell about it the next day. On hearing of Countess Bezhikova's visit and the invitation for that evening, Maria Dmitrievna remarked,
I don't care to have anything to do with Bezhikova, and I don't advise you to. However, if you've promised to go, it will divert your thoughts, she said, addressing Natasha.
Imagine Maria Dmitrievna as Meryl Streep.
You do?
Yeah.
I can't stand her.
You
I mean,
don't like her?
I'm not saying that therefore it can't be, but
It cannot be.
she's the worst.
Why don't you like her?
She's presumptuous and is like making them do stuff that they don't want to do, and then interfering with the fucking what's his face. Why did she go over there?
She thought she could do it.
Do what?
She thought like, oh, Natasha can't handle this, I'll do it.
Meryl Streep would have handled it.
That's true, actually.
You're right. You're right. Chapter 13.
Count Rostov took the girls to Countess Bezhikova's. There were a good many people there, but nearly all strangers to Natasha. Count Rostov was displeased to see that the company consisted almost entirely of men and women known for the freedom of their conduct.
Oh, yikes.
Mademoiselle Georges was standing in a corner of the drawing room surrounded by young men. There were several Frenchmen present, Among them, Metivier, who from the time Helena reached Moscow had become an intimate in her house. The Count decided not to sit down to cards or let his girls out of his sight, and to get away as soon as Mademoiselle Georges' performance was over.
Anatoly was at the door, evidently on the lookout for the Rostovs. Immediately after greeting the Count, he went up to Natasha and followed her. As soon as she saw him, she was seized by the same feeling she had had at the opera. Gratified vanity at his admiration of her and fear at the absence of a moral barrier between them.
Helena welcomed Natasha delightedly and was loud in admiration of her beauty and her dress. Soon after their arrival, Mademoiselle Georges went out of the room to change her costume. In the drawing room, people began arranging the chairs and taking their seats. Anatole moved a chair for Natasha and was about to sit down beside her, but the Count, who never lost sight of her, took the seat himself. Anatole sat down behind her.
The Count was like, Mademoiselle Georges, with her bare, fat, dimpled arms.
Dimpled? That's so... I just want to have a dimpled arm. Where
Fat and a lack of muscles.
Mm-hmm. It's a lack of muscle, she has.
Gross. I'm being so judgy. Okay. And a red shawl draped over one shoulder came into the space left vacant for her and assumed an unnatural pose. Enthusiastic whispering was audible. It was visible as well.
Yes. Oh. I just got that. Mademoiselle Georges looked sternly and gloomily at the audience and began reciting some French verses describing her guilty love for her son. Okay.
How French.
Very
What?
seriously. In some places, she raised her voice. In others, she whispered, lifting her head triumphantly. Sometimes she paused and uttered hoarse words, hoarse sounds, rolling her eyes.
So she's doing a monologue?
I think so. She's just performing.
Oh,
I don't know what she's doing.
Adorable, divine, delicious. Remember Napoleon's doctor? Okay. Delicious was heard from every side. You don't remember?
Oh, it was like Lenny.
It was like Lenny.
It was.
It was Larry.
Larry, my Dr. Larry will treat you. Natasha looked at the fat actress, but neither saw nor heard nor understood anything of what went on before her. She only felt herself again completely borne away into this strange, senseless world, so remote from her own world, a world in which it was impossible to know what was good or bad, reasonable or senseless. Behind her sat Anatole, and conscious of his proximity, she experienced a frightened sense of expectancy.
After the first monologue, there we go, the whole company rose and surrounded
That's
Mademoiselle.
one monologue.
Oh my god, she's going to do a lot of monologues?
I don't know, but I'm just saying that was all in one.
Oh, of course.
Oh, okay.
The mother who's into her son, who ends up being like, ugh! Yeah.
See this.
Totally. That's cohesive dramatically. After the first monologue, the whole company rose and surrounded Mademoiselle Georges, expressing their enthusiasm.
How beautiful she is, Natasha remarked to her father, who had also risen and was moving through the crowd toward the actress.
I don't think so when I look at you. What?
I don't think so when I look at you. Like, she's not beautiful. Compared to you.
I genuinely didn't get that. I was like, is he saying that Natasha's ugly? I don't think that when I see you.
I don't think.
That's not what I'm thinking. When I'm looking at you.
You think he's nagging her? Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Why not?
Sure. It could be that too.
I don't think so when I look at you. I don't know how to read it now, said Anatoly, following Nastasha. He said this at a moment when she alone could hear him. You are enchanting. From the moment I saw you, I never ceased.
Come, Natasha, said the Count, as he turned back for his daughter. How beautiful she is. Natasha, without saying anything, stepped up to her father and looked at him with surprised, inquiring eyes.
Why? After giving several recitations, Mademoiselle Georges left. And Countess Bezhukova asked her visitors into the ballroom.
Wait, so like she gives a monologue, and then everyone's like,
Oh!
and they go up to her and talk to her,
They break
and then
the
they
fourth
sit
wall,
down.
And then they sit down again. She's like, wait. And then she does another one.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh! And they like come up her and they break the fourth wall. And then she's like, wait.
Another one.
That's her. And then the second little piggy was like, yeah,
And she huffed, and she puffed.
and she popped, and she popped, and nothing happened.
The Count wished to go home, but Helena entreated him not to spoil her improvised ball, and the Rostov stayed on. Anatoly asked Natasha for a valse, and as they danced, pressed her waist and hand and told her she was bewitching and that he loved her. During the écossaise, which she also danced with him, Anatoly said nothing when they happened to be by themselves, but merely gazed at her. Natasha lifted her frightened eyes to him, but there was such confident tenderness in his affectionate look and smile that she could not, whilst looking at him, say what she had to say. She lowered her eyes.
Don't say such things to me. I am betrothed and love another, she said rapidly. She glanced at him.
Anatoly was not upset or pained by what she had said.
Don't speak to me like that. What can I do? Said he. I tell you, I am madly in love with you. It is my fault that you are enchanting. Ugh. It's our turn to begin.
Natasha, animated and excited, looked about her with wide-open frightened eyes and seemed merrier than usual. She understood hardly anything that went on that evening. They danced the écossaise and the Gross Vater.
Is that the dirty water?
Gross Vater. It must be. Big water, maybe?
Yeah, it's probably not gross.
Gross. I don't know what that dance would be. I don't know. Her father asked her to come home, but she begged to remain. Wherever she went and whomever she was speaking to, she felt his eyes upon her. Later on, she recalled how she had asked her father to let her go to the dressing room to rearrange her dress, that Helena had followed her and spoken laughingly of her brother's love, and that she again met Anatoly in the little sitting room. Helena had disappeared, leaving them alone, and Anatoly had taken her hand and said in a tender voice,
I cannot come to visit you, but is it possible that I shall never see you again? I love you madly. Can I never? And blocking her path, he brought his face close to hers.
His large, glittering, masculine eyes were so close to hers that she saw nothing.
This is very stressful to me. Natalie, he whispered inquiringly while she felt her hands being playfully pressed again. Natalie! Natalie!
I don't understand. I have nothing to say, her eyes replied.
Burning lips were pressed to hers. Ah! And at the same instant, she felt herself released, and Helena's footsteps and the rustle of her dress were heard in the room. Natasha looked round at her, and then, red and trembling, I wanted her to throw up, but I turned the page, threw a frightened look of inquiry at Anatoly and moved toward the door.
One word, just one, for God's sake, cried Anatoly.
She paused. She so wanted a word from him that would explain to her what had happened, and to which she could find no answer.
Natalie! Just a word. Only one! He kept repeating.
What word do you want, bastard? Imagine. It's just like... Jeez. Like...
Evidently not knowing what to say, and he repeated it till Helena came up to them.
Helena returned with Natasha to the drawing room. The Rostovs went away without staying for supper.
After reaching home, Natasha did not sleep all night. She was tormented by the insoluble question whether she loved Anatoly or Prince Andrew.
See?
She loved Prince Andrew. She remembered distinctly how deeply she loved him. But she also loved Anatoly. Of that there was no doubt. How else could all this have happened, thought she.
What?
Oh, and if after that I could return his smile when saying goodbye. if I was able to let it come to that, it means that I loved him from the first. It means that he is kind.
Oh my god, I gotta go.
And splendid. And I could not help loving him. You gotta go? Okay.
I can't.
What am I to do if I love him and the other one too? She asked herself, unable to find an answer to these terrible questions. He must be noble if all of that happened. If all of that happened, it must be because I love him. And if I love him, it must be that he is kind and good and noble and virtuous and manly.
I can't even. I feel like someone put a fork in my brain and went like that, like you do with spaghetti.
Yeah.
My brain's just gone like, and is now on a fork, and God knows headed where. What? Oh my God! Those are the most unsafe assumptions I think I've ever heard. This is horrible. This is horrible.
Yeah.
Why isn't anyone there to be like, you donkey? You've never had a conversation with this person.
Well, she's not talking to anyone about it. But is no one paying attention to what she's doing other than Bezhikova? Is no one being like, hey...
Who, fuck her, is like a little better than her brother.
No, I don't... Right. I mean, that's a whole other thing. Yeah. Not to, like, reproach her, but to be like, are you okay? Like, what's going on?
No, clearly not.
Isn't Sonia there?
Yes.
Sonia, what are you doing?
She's asleep at the wheel. Whatever, she loves Nicholas, so. So her brain's gotta be spaghetti already.
Oh.
Sasha is probably not at all hard to read.
No.
Remember when you were saying that thing about how you couldn't see your eyes move in the mirror?
Yeah.
I'm so confused by that. I need to see that article.
Saccadic. Saccadic movements, I think that's what it's called.
I don't know. I won't see it later. What the fuck? I don't know if I can do this anymore. Let's quit.
Is it upsetting? Because I find it quite realistic. That's why it's upsetting to me. Again, I keep remembering her age, her inexperience, and I can see her filling in all those blanks. It makes me deeply concerned and uncomfortable.
I mean, yeah, it's not that it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It's just so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Also, I'm mad because it's such an unworthy. It just feels like he's so unworthy.
You know what this is totally making me think of Pride and Prejudice, and
why?
What's his doofus's name?
Wickham?
Thank you. Yeah. How like Lizzie of all people should know better. It's all caught up in his nonsense.
Yeah, not the only difference, but one of the qualitative differences is that this is like tarnishing something, which it does in that case as well, but it's not well developed. It's not like she really likes this person and she lets that erode because of her favorability towards Wickham. You know what I mean? And in this, it's like it like means things to her about how she feels about Andrew, which I don't honestly know how she does at this point.
That's true too. And I also don't know how affianced peoples were regarded in this society. Maybe it was taken a bit less seriously, and especially the year-long engagement. Andrew was like, if you fall in love with another, it's okay. Don't shut yourself off on my sake. I don't know if it was kind of like, well, until she's married, she's a bit fair game.
I doubt that, just based on everything else about how women are situated in these things. It's never like generous and malleable and like, oh, whatever, you know. Yes, it's true that Andrew did say that, but I feel like the thing that is stressing me is not that Andrew will be mad or anything like that.
No,
it's
I don't
more
think
that she is going through this amount of stress over something that, like, to me seems really unimportant because it seems completely to be about lust and not actual feelings, which I imagine would be very distressing to try to negotiate. These are not feelings. Anyway, obviously it's not the end of the book, so should we do one more?
Let's do one more.
Everything better get fixed in chapter 14. That's all.
Pierre. What's Pierre doing?
I know. He's supposed to have been.
He's supposed to be looking out for her. And for him. For Prince Andrew. Even if it was like only on Prince Andrew's interest.
And this only happened at his house.
Yeah, you're right. He's just growing stout. That's what he's doing.
Great. Thanks a lot, Pierre.
Chapter 14. Morning came with its cares and bustle. Everyone got up and began to move about and talk. Dressmakers came again. Maria Dmitrievna appeared, and they were called to breakfast. Natasha kept looking uneasily at everybody with wide-open eyes, as if wishing to intercept every glance directed toward her, and tried to appear the same as usual.
After breakfast, which was her best time, Maria Dmitrievna sat down in her armchair and called Natasha and the Count to her.
Well, friends, I've now thought the whole matter over, and this is my advice.
No one cares.
She began. Yesterday, as you know, I went to see Prince Volkonsky. Well, I had a talk with him. He took it into his head to begin shouting. But I like that. He took it into his head.
I like it too.
But I am not one to be shouted down. I said what I had to say.
So you shouted louder.
Definitely.
Well, and he asked the Count.
He's
crazy.
Crazy. You do not want to listen, but what's the use of talking?
What? What did you go there for?
I don't know.
So we just hugged it out.
What's the use of talking? So, what's the use of talking? As it is, we have worn the poor girl out, said Maria Dmitrievna. My advice to you is, finish your business and go back home to Otterdino and wait there.
Oh, no, exclaimed Natasha.
Yes, go back, said Maria Dmitrievna, and wait there. If your betrothed comes here now, there will be no avoiding a quarrel. But alone with the old man, he will talk things over and then come on to you.
Come on to me?
I don't know. That's what it says.
Count Rostov approved of this suggestion, appreciating its reasonableness. If the old man came around, it would be all the better to visit him in Moscow. What old man? Oh, if the old man came round, it would be all the better to visit him in Moscow or at Bald Hills later on, and if not, the wedding, against his wishes, could only be arranged at Otranto.
That's perfectly true, and I am sorry I went to see him and took her, said the old Count.
No, why be sorry? I'm the one that told you to do it. Being here, you had to pay your respects, but if he won't, that's his affair. said Maria Dmitrievna, looking for something in her reticule. Besides, the trousseau is ready, so there is nothing to wait for, and what is not ready I'll send after you. Though I don't like letting you go, it is the best way. So go. With God's blessing.
Oh, thank you. Having found what she was looking for in the reticule, she handed it to Natasha. It was a letter from Princess Mary.
She has written to you. How she torments herself, poor thing. She's afraid you might think that she does not like you.
But she doesn't like me, said Natasha.
Oh, dog, nonsense, cried Maria Dmitrievna.
I shan't believe anyone. I know she doesn't like me, replied Natasha boldly as she took the letter. And her face expressed a cold and angry resolution that caused Maria Dmitrievna to look at her more intensely and to frown.
Don't answer like that, my good girl, she said. What I say is true. Write an answer. Natasha did not reply and went to her own room to read Princess Mary's letter.
Princess Mary wrote that she was in despair at the misunderstanding that had occurred between them. Whatever her father's feelings might be, she begged Natasha to believe that she could not help loving her as the one chosen by her brother, for whose happiness she was ready to sacrifice everything.
Do not think, however, she wrote, that my father is ill-disposed towards you. He is an invalid, and an old man who must be forgiven, but he is good and magnanimous and will love her who makes his son happy. That's so not true. Princess Mary went on to ask Natasha to fix a time when she could see her again.
After reading the letter, Natasha sat down at the writing table to answer it. Dear Princess, she wrote in French quickly and mechanically, and then paused. What more could you write after all that had happened the evening before? Yes, all that had happened, and now all is changed, she thought, as she sat with the letter she had begun before her. Must I break off with him? Must I really? It's awful. And to escape from those dreadful thoughts, she went to Sonia and began sorting patterns with her.
After dinner, Natasha went to her room and again took up Princess Mary's letter. Can it be that it is all over? She thought. Can it be that all this has happened so quickly and has destroyed all that went before? She recalled her love for Prince Andrew in all its former strength, and at the same time felt that she loved Kuragin. She vividly pictured herself as Prince Andrew's wife, and the scenes of happiness with him she had so often repeated in her imagination, and at the same time, aglow with excitement, recalled every detail of yesterday's interview with Anatoly.
Why could that not be as well? She sometimes asked herself in complete bewilderment. Only so I could be completely happy. But now I have to choose, and I can't be happy without either of them. Yes. Only, she thought, to tell Prince Andrew what has happened or to hide it from him are both equally impossible. But with that one, nothing is spoiled. But am I really to abandon forever the joy of Prince Andrew's love, in which I have lived so long?
Please, miss, whispered a maid entering the room with a mysterious air. A man told me to give you this, as she handed Natasha a letter.
And for Christ's sake, the girl went on, as Natasha, without thinking, mechanically broke the seal and read a love letter from Anatoly, of which, without taking in a word, she understood only that it was a letter from him, from the man she loved. Yes, she loved him. Or else, how could that have happened which had happened? And how could she have a love letter from him in her hand?
With trembling hands, Natasha held that passionate love letter which Dolokhov had composed for Anatoly. And as she read it, she found in it an echo of all that she herself imagined she was feeling.
Since yesterday evening, my fate has been sealed, to be loved by you or to die. There is no other way for me, the letter began. Then he went on to say that he knew her parents would not give her to him. For this, there were secret reasons he could reveal only to her, but that if she loved him, she need only say the word yes, and no human power could hinder that bliss. Love would conquer all. He would steal her away and carry her off to the ends of the earth.
Yes, I love him, thought Natasha, reading the letter for the 20th time and finding some peculiarly deep meaning in each word of it.
That evening, Maria Dmitrievna was going to the Akharovs and proposed to take the girl with her. Natasha, pleading a headache, remained at home. No, dear. Someone's got to intervene. They've got to. That's what I say. Obviously, she's not going to marry or run off with him into the night.
Is it?
Like,
cannot happen.
Based on what?
Just based on she's the only female character we're designed to like. She cannot fall from grace.
That's all she was designed to do.
Really?
I don't know.
You were also very concerned about her relationship with Andrew before, right?
Yeah, because it's gonna be that would have been a clusterfuck.
Yeah. It would have.
I maintain it.
Yeah.
But I also think that with her like brandishing her fucking, no, I'm not talking about her. I'm just talking about Tolstoy. Brandishing her fucking happiness here, there, and everywhere. It's like, well, obviously this is gonna shatter.
With Andrew?
Just in general, as a person. Where is Pierre? How long is the next chapter?
No one's talking to her. Like her father too. Have a conversation with your daughter. Don't just like.
Useless.
You want to keep going?
No, I'm just seeing how long the chapter is because I don't like it.
It's 11 pages.
Oh, I see what happens.
You see what happens?
Yeah, at least in chapter 15. Sometimes I have to cheat because I just can't bear my discomfort.
Okay. You want to keep going?
Yes, we have to read this
Okay.
Okay, chapter 15. On returning late in the evening, Sonia went to Natasha's room and, to her surprise, found her still dressed and asleep on the sofa. Open on the table beside her lay Anatoly's letter. Sonia picked it up and read it.
Ah. Although Sonia is not great at much. But whatever. Now she has a friend. As she read, she glanced at the sleeping Natasha, trying to find in her face an explanation of what she was reading. But she did not find it.
It's not starting well.
Her face
She's
was...
like, who? What is this?
Her face was calm, gentle, and happy, clutching her breast to keep herself from choking. So dramatic, Sonia. That's a very dramatic response. No?
Maybe by choking she means, oh!
Okay, I hope it's that, and not like, I don't know, like that she's going to throw up or something. Sonia, pale and trembling with fear and agitation, sat down in an armchair and burst into tears.
How was it? I noticed nothing.
No.
How could it go so far? Could she have left out loving Prince Andrew? And how could she let Currigan go to such lengths? He's a deceiver and villain, that's plain. What will Nicholas do? No, what will Nicholas do when he hears of it? So this is the meaning of her excited, resolute, unnatural look the day before yesterday, and today, thought Sonia. But it can't be that she loves him. She probably opened the letter without knowing who it was from. Probably she's offended by it. She could not do such a thing.
Sonia wiped away her tears and went up to Natasha, again scanning her face.
She said, just audibly.
Natasha awoke and saw Sonia.
Ah, you're back!
And with the decision and tenderness that often come at the moment of awakening,
she grabbed her by the throat and was like,
yes, I'm familiar with that decision. Yeah, she embraced her friend, but noticing Sonia's look of embarrassment, her own face expressed confusion and suspicion.
Sonia, you've read that letter? She demanded.
Yes, answered Sonia softly.
Natasha smiled rapturously, demented.
Dude, no, Sonia, I can't any longer, she said. I can't hide it from you any longer.
Smiled. You must smile when you read this. No,
Sonia. I can't any longer. I can't hide from you any longer. You know, we love one another.
You don't.
Sonia, darling, he writes. Sonia.
Sonia stared open-eyed at Natasha, unable to believe her ears.
And Volkovsky, she asked.
Ah! Sonia, if you only knew how happy I am, cried Natasha. You don't know what love is?
But Natasha, can that all be over?
Natasha looked at Sonia with wide open eyes as if she could not grasp the question.
Well then, are you refusing Prince Andrew? Said Sonia.
Ah, you don't understand anything. Don't talk nonsense, just listen, said Natasha with momentary vexation.
I can't believe it, insisted Sonia. I don't understand. How is it you have loved a man for a whole year and suddenly, why, you have only seen him 3 times? Natasha, I don't believe you. You're joking. In 3 days to forget everything and so...
3 days, said Natasha. It seems to me I've loved him for 100 years. It seems to me that I have never loved anyone. This is the weirdest fucking... I can't stand her. I'm mad at her now.
Yeah. She's just taken by the moment. Whatever moment it may be.
I'm mad that she was so consistent for the last year. Like, that's the moment. Just do you. But like, what do I care? I'm down with you. It seems to me that I have never loved anyone before. You can't understand it, Sonia. Wait a bit. Sit here. Said Natasha. And Natasha embraced and kissed her.
I had heard that it happens like this, and you must have heard it too. But it's only now that I feel such love. It's not the same as before. As soon as I saw him, I felt he was my master. He was my master, and I his slave, and that I could not help loving him. Yes, his slave. Whatever he orders, I shall do. You don't understand that. What can I do?
Oh, yeah, she clearly doesn't understand.
What can I do, Sonia? Cried Natasha with a happy yet frightened expression.
Think what you are doing, cried Sonia. I can't leave it like this. This secret correspondence. How could you let him go so far? She went on with a horror and disgust she could hardly conceal.
I told you that I have no will, Natasha replied. How can't you understand? I love him.
Then I won't let it come to that. I shall tell, cried Sonia, bursting into tears.
What do you mean? For God's sakes, if you tell, you are my enemy, declared Natasha. You want me to be miserable. You want us to be separated.
When she saw Natasha's fright, Sonia shed tears of shame and pity for her friend.
What has happened between you? She asked. What has he said to you? Why doesn't he come to the house?
Natasha did not answer her questions.
For God's sake, Sonia, don't tell anyone. Don't torture me, Natasha entreated. Remember, no one ought to interfere in such matters. I've confided in you.
But why this secrecy? Why doesn't he come to the house? Asked Sonia. Why doesn't he openly ask for your hand? You know Prince Andrew gave you complete freedom. If it is really so, I don't believe it. Natasha, have you considered what these secret reasons can be?
Natasha looked at Sonia with astonishment. Evidently, this question presented itself to her mind for the first time, and she did not know how to answer it.
I don't know what the reasons are, but there must be reasons.
Sonia sighed and shook her head incredulously.
If there were reasons, she began.
But Natasha, guessing her doubts, interrupted her in alarm.
Sonia, one can't doubt him. One can't.
One can.
One certainly can. Don't you understand? She cried.
Does he love you?
Does he love me? Natasha repeated with a smile of pity at her friend's lack of comprehension. Why, you have read his letter, and you have seen him.
But if he is dishonorable...
He? Dishonorable? If you only knew, exclaimed Natasha.
If he is an honorable man, he should either declare his intentions or cease seeing you. And if he won't do this, I will. I will write to him, and I will tell Papa, said Sonia resolutely.
But I can't live without him, cried Sasha.
Sasha, I don't understand you and what you are saying. Think of your father and of Nicholas.
I don't want anyone. I don't love anyone but him. How dare you say he is dishonorable? Don't you know that I love him? Screamed Natasha. Go away, Sonia. I don't want to quarrel with you, but go. For God's sake, go. You see how I'm suffering, Natasha cried angrily in a voice of despair and repressed irritation. Sonia burst into snobs, and ran from the room.
Natasha went to the table, and without a moment's reflection, wrote that answer to Princess Mary, which she had been unable to write all the morning. In this letter, she said briefly that all their misunderstanding were at an end, that availing herself to the magnanimity of Prince Andrew, who, when he went abroad, had given her freedom, she begged Princess Mary to forget everything and forgive her if she had been to blame toward her, but that she could not be his wife. At that moment, this all seemed quite easy, simple, and clear to Natasha.
Oh my God. On Friday, the Rostovs were to return to the country, but on Wednesday, the Count went with the prospective purchaser to his estate near Moscow.
On the day the Count left, Sonia and Natasha were invited to a big dinner party at the Karagins, and Maria Dmitrievna took them there. At that party, Natasha again met Anatoly, and Sonia noticed that she spoke to him, trying not to be overheard, and that all through dinner she was more agitated than ever. When they got home, Natasha was the first to begin the explanation Sonia expected.
There, Sonia, you were talking all sorts of nonsense about him, Natasha began in a mild voice, such as children use when they wish to be praised. We have had an explanation today.
Well, what happened? What did he say? Natasha, how glad I am you're not angry with me. Tell me everything, the whole truth. What did he say?
Natasha became thoughtful.
Oh, Sonia, you knew him as I do. He said, he asked me what I had promised Bolkonsky. He was glad I was free to refuse him.
Sonia sighed sorrowfully.
But you haven't refused Bolkonsky, said she.
Perhaps I have. Perhaps all is over between me and Bolkonsky. Why do you think so badly of me?
I don't think anything, only I don't understand this.
Wait a bit, Sonia. You'll understand everything. You'll see what a man he is. I don't think badly of me or of him. I don't think badly of anyone. I love and pity everyone. What am I to do?
Sonia did not succumb to the tender tone Natasha used toward her. The more emotional and ingratiating the expression of Natasha's face became, the more serious and stern grew Sonia.
Natasha, said she, you asked me not to speak to you, and I haven't spoken, but now you yourself have begun. What? I don't trust him, Natasha. Why this secrecy?
Again, interrupted Natasha.
Natasha, I am afraid for you.
Afraid of what?
I am afraid you're going to your ruin, said Sonia resolutely, and was herself horrified at what she had said.
Anger again showed in Natasha's face.
And I'll go to my ruin. I will. As soon as possible. It's not your business. It won't be you, but I will suffer. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. I hate you.
Natasha, moaned Sonia, aghast.
I hate you. I hate you. You're my enemy forever, said Natasha, and ran out of the room.
Natasha did not speak to Sonia again and avoided her. With the same expression of agitated surprise and guilt, she went about the house, taking up now one occupation, now another, and at once abandoning them.
Hard as it was for Sonia, she watched her friend and did not let her out of her sight.
The day before the Count was to return, Sonia noticed that Natasha sat by the drawing-room window all the morning as if expecting something, and that she made a sign to an officer who drove past, whom Sonia took to be Anatoly.
Sonia began watching her friend still more attentively and noticed that at dinner and all that evening, Natasha was in a strange and unnatural state. She answered questions at random, began sentences she did not finish, and laughed at everything.
After tea, Sonia noticed a housemaid at Natasha's door timidly waiting to let her pass. She let the girl go in, and then listening at the door learned that another letter had been delivered.
Then suddenly it became clear to Sonia that Natasha had some dreadful plan for that evening. Sonia knocked at her door. Natasha did not let her in.
She will run away with him, thought Sonia. She's capable of anything. There was something particularly pathetic and resolute in her face today. She cried as she said goodbye to Uncle, Sonia remembered.
Who, Uncle?
Uncle.
Oh.
The hunter.
Well, it's not in parentheses. It's not in...
That's true.
Uncle. Yeah.
Oh, maybe it's her father. Because that would be Sonia's uncle, right?
Well, why was she saying goodbye to him?
I don't know. Sonia remembered because it's goodbye. I don't know.
Mm.
Yes, that's it. She means to elope with him. What am I to do? Thought she, recalling all the signs that clearly indicated that Natasha had some terrible intention. The Count is away. What am I to do? Write to Kurgan demanding an explanation? But what is there to oblige him to reply? Write to Pierre?
Yes!
Prince Andrew asked me to in case of some misfortune? But perhaps she really has already refused Bolkonsky. She sent a letter to Princess Mary yesterday. And Uncle is away to tell Maria Dmitrievna, who had such faith in Natasha, seemed to Sonia terrible. Well, anyway, thought Sonia as she stood in the dark passage, now or never I must prove that I remember the family's goodness to me and that I love Nicholas. Yes, if I don't sleep for 3 nights, I'll not leave this passage and will hold her back by force and will and not force and will and not let the family be disgraced, thought she.
Well, at least someone's doing something.
Someone's protecting this family.
At least someone cares about this family.
Maybe she will do a good turn for the family, and then Mama Rostov will feel ingratiated by her, will feel grateful to her, and be like, oh yes, please marry my son Nicholas.
Surely.
Sure.
Yes. This book's got a really happy ending. So that's probably
Yeah,
what's
don't
gonna
you think it's a really happy ending?
happen. I don't know what I think.
Well, Prince Andrew and she have many babies together.
I mean, this is probably like gonna be the weirdest ending. Have you actually thought about the ending? Based on like the pacing of it, the way chapters end,
Yeah.
I feel like it's gonna be just a super bizarre ending.
There's going to be so many endings. 2 epilogues.
Yeah.
I don't know what year it is when it ends. Should I look ahead?
I don't know. I can't help it.
1805 to 18. Oh, not that long. 1812.
Oh,
Oh,
it's around the corner.
truly.
We're at like 1811.
Yeah. So a lot has got to happen.
It's about to get action packed. This
What's
is
gonna
about to be
happen?
like a fucking 1 year long car chase. Like
so
a
strange.
1 year long social Russian car chase.
Okay. I don't know what's going to happen.
Imagine if it finally starts
Suddenly
to pick up at
that's
around
such a
48%.
different pace.
It's a very different pace.
Maybe we go back in time. We find out what Prince Andrew's been doing.
Nah. He's at the spa. He's in the
So
club.
random.
He's at the spa.
Everything happens in 1812.
Interesting.
I don't know what it could be.
You know what's interesting about the freaking War and Peace, whatchamacallit? IMDb?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's fucking blonde.
Yeah, I thought of that too.
I mean, that's always how it is, but
Yes. That's always how it is? They
Yeah.
cast blondes?
yeah.
Strange. It's so old fashioned.
What's so old fashioned?
Or I guess I think of that being so like Hollywood old fashioned.
Oh no.
Like it's all about the blondes.
It's very much so like that.
I guess well, Lily James. And then I imagine that's how they decided all the hair colors of her family.
Like, it's pretty, those are like very, very light hair colors. Especially because Tolstoy calls them all black hair colors. We should watch this. Of course we can't.
I don't spoil it.
You don't want to spoil it?
No, I don't want to know it.
Why is Lily James blonde?
Yeah, why not dye her hair? Why not make it everyone's dark and brooding? That's how I think of Russians.
Really?
Not like I think of the dark winter nights. It's that classic like dark hair and porcelain.
Like who?
Maybe this is the one thing I remember about Anna Karenina.
Hmm.
The description of her. Or Dr. Zhivago.
I just typed in Russian women, which I don't recommend doing, but like blonde.
They're all blonde. Like,
But specifically, no one is in this book. Like he says it repeatedly. Not no one, but. Okay, well, that was very, very exciting.
truly. She's lost her head.
She's never had one.
Yes.
I mean, I'm just saying that. Idiot. Not that I think that marrying Andrew dutifully would have been a great idea. I don't. But this is not great either.
Reasons why women should not marry at 16.
Is she still 16?
Maybe she's 17. Does that make it
Oh,
better?
well, yes. That makes it completely different.
Oh, if she's 17.
Oops. 17. You know that song, I am 16 going on 17? That song is about literally coming of age because when you're 17,
Everything
it's
changes.
done.
Yeah.
You're done.
You're cooked.
You're fully baked. I was just about to say that. Like a baked good. I wonder tomorrow will be the day when I wake up and I'm just drowning in baked goods. That's supposed to happen.
Is that a fantasy you have?
No, you
Walk into the
fucking
kitchen.
promised it
Okay.
like 3
I
days
was
ago.
thinking about this. I'm concerned about the quantity of flour in the house. I've been thinking about this.
Mhm.
That's not a good excuse.
No, it's a great excuse because I think that flour seems important.
Flour's a bit important when it comes to baking. Now, could I have got flour when we did our one grocery haul of the week? Yes, I could. And did I think about it? Yes, I did.
But did I think about it? Yes. What? Why didn't you do it then?
I looked at what was in my cart and I was like, this is getting expensive. But I could have committed. It is expensive, but you know what? Then you have baked goods, and then you don't have to resort to Oreo crack. No,
I can't remember the last time I ate something like this. It makes me be like I go like a little bit insane.
when you think that like some people just eat these all the time consistently.
I want to be them. I want to be plump.
What a life! What a life! Like imagine eating McDonald's every day of your life.
That's sad.
That's crazy, Christine.
That's what?
I think if I ate McDonald's 2 days in a row, I'd be like, whoa, okay. We got to scale this back.
Yeah.
But you would feel it in your bones. You would feel greasy.
I want to
what I
feel
meant.
greasy in my bones.
Ugh. Ugh.
This is the part where I don't want to feel greasy today in my bones. I really was craving all kinds of green vegetables. I put a bunch of them in my Postmates cart, and then I was like, yeah, eat what's in the house.
I was just thinking about that yesterday, but you don't eat that many green vegetables.
Normally I do.
Do you? Just like,
When I'm cooking and shit. And I used to make salads a lot. I haven't been for the last couple of years. But that's like mostly what I ate in Studio City. I almost got arugula and stuff today. Yeah, there's a couple of there's a balsamic dressing that I make that I really like. There's like 3 different kinds of dressings that I like, but they're also very grocery store heavy. It's a grocery store heavy way to eat because you like basically have to go every day.
you mean to eat salads?
Yeah,
Food.
yeah, because you can't be like. And then if you open like a bag of something, then you have to eat it for like 3 days, 3 meals straight. Like, so it's just kind of a finicky.
It's not the
But
best.
I eat a lot of like spinach and what's it called?
Spinach, that's true.
But I've been kind of dying. I literally like have 3 or 4 Postmates carts of green things.
From
And then I
where?
sensed
Where are you ordering groceries from?
not groceries,
Oh, okay.
Postmates.
You said arugula. You said there were all these green vegetables in your cart, but you mean like salads and things like that.
Arugula was a separate thing. That was in my fresh cart, but then I was like, thought it would make more sense to do spinach and cook it instead. So I dumped the arugula. This is all for a cart that I don't know when it's actually going
But this reminds me.
to arrive.
You know what? Can I still change it? Yeah, it's Friday. I don't know what will be left. If you want to add anything onto my imperfect order,
Oh, how does one do that?
like, I don't know if we should do this now
You don't have to.
with all of you. But
No, you don't have to.
yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
Yay!
Happy weekend, everybody.
All right.
Happy Passover.
Right.
Yeah.
Happy Friday. I mean, this is Good Friday.
Good. Yes. I hope your Friday was good.
It's not Good Friday. I mean, it is Good Friday, but that's not good.
Right. Okay.
It's very serious.
What's the? Did they say like shalom? What did they say?
Christians?
No, not Christians.
Okay, I'm supposed to be like, they don't say anything on Good Friday.
Shalom.
They just grumble.
Yeah, that too. Sinners, all of you.
Listen, we're gonna make